thank you all so much for being here, for showing such an interest in this event that we've put together. And let's talk about the next speaker. Justin Hanson is going to be speaking to us about data engineering. Justin and I have known each other for years, and honestly, I was trying to think back when we first met, and I couldn't even nail down a time or like an event where we first met. But no matter what event we happen to run into each other at, we always really share a good laugh. And his experience as a data engineer is really critical to helping people make the most of their data. So I'm really excited to be able to introduce Justin. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Brady. I gotta pick up the tone now after Dustin's downer there. So really excited to be here. So I am in data architecture and data engineering. So I saw one of the questions in the chat was for Jen and Sunny of how do you build that trusted data source? Well, that's my world, that's my life, and so. I've spent about 6 or 7 years, but the first 6 or 7 years were spent in various data engineering roles. A lot of them back then was called ETL developers. We got a cooler title, and we got an upgrade on the title. Spent 4 years then consulting on helping to build out data platforms, and then I've been spending the last year and a half building out essentially my own platform at a company and using all the knowledge I gained from consulting. So today is really about a little of the day in the life of a data engineer. So at a simplest level, Dustin was talking about the simple questions, the simple answers, right? We heard Jen talking about delivering analysis. We heard Sunny talk about delivering the features, the ML models. Data engineers, really at the simplest level, they deliver data sets. We feed the data sets that are used for the analysis and the different models. We heard Sunny and Jen talk a lot about solving specific problems. So a lot of data science and data analysis is focused on what is that business problem? What are we trying to solve? Data engineering often takes it a little bit different, and we're focused on the platform and the system as a whole. So how do we support all analysis, all data science models? How do we help scale out those ML models as a whole? And so with that, we tend to think like a lot of what data engineering actually is. I think we tend to think about we build data pipelines. That's probably the Google answer, the simple thing that you'll see online. Building out things like replication, data pipelines, ELT, ETL, some things like that. We certainly focus a lot on administering the database, monitoring the platform as a whole. I think those are probably the table stakes, what you find reading about it. To take it a little bit further, we do things like build deployment automations, focus on how do we run these data sets, data pipelines against different environments, a dev, a QA, a production. We think about data modeling a lot. How do these data sets or this data domain, how does this relate to the data that a different analysis is doing in a different domain, so we can do cross-domain analysis. So a big part of that is the data modeling. Data quality and data quality testing. How do we build those data quality tests to apply that automation? And then some newer things that have really crept up. Data access security is becoming hot in the market. Who has access to what? So building policies that are associated to that. And then data privacy. So we've heard a lot about, there's a lot of regulation that's starting to creep up. CCPA is a California regulation. GDPR, certainly in the EU has got a lot of buzzword. So building the processes that surround and support those types of regulations. And then as we get into the cloud world, a big focus of that is around managing the cost, the system costs of your cloud. At its core, we're talking a lot about automation. We're trying to support and build the automation that supports those data analysts and data scientists. You'll hear a lot of this is starting to sound a little bit more like software development. I think data engineers start to bridge the gap between that data analysis, data scientist, and software development. 20 years ago, for the last 15, 20 years, we've had a lot of regulatory stuff around software development, SOC 2 audits, things like that. So things like deployment automation, source control, code audits, automated testing, all those things have been around in the software world for a long time now. And those are really starting to come to the data world. Data is starting to become viewed as more mission critical at an organization, and it's being part of now things like SOC 2 audits, regulation, and so a lot of those things that have been in the software engineering world for governance and compliance are now really becoming a focus on in the data world. And so data engineering is really at the core of being able to support a lot of that. So a day to day, what does a typical day look like in data engineering? Typically, I've worked most closely with the analysts and data scientists themselves. Frankly, I've generally had a bit of a buffer between myself and a lot of those end data consumers. I'll attend presentations to see all the cool data and the cool analysis that was done, but generally I'm the guy behind the scenes. They're typically focused on the what to build, and often the data engineering behind the scenes is focused on the how to build it, or maybe the how to support what they build. So it's definitely a big partnership within there. Typical day will look like combination of monitoring existing systems, troubleshooting and maintenance of existing pipelines, processes. There's a constant change in our world, so having to do that troubleshooting and maintenance is a big part of it. Building out data sets, certainly, and then building out the automations and of those existing tasks and processes that we had talked about today. We heard some of the other speakers talk about this as well, but so much of the day-to-day is actually not writing code. I think there's the misconception that we just sit and code all day, but we spend much more time talking about the code that we've either written or going to write, rather than actually writing code. So the soft skills in our world are highly underrated. So my personal focus over the last 10 years or so early in my career, I certainly focused on executing and building a lot of those pipelines. Really, I've pivoted and shifted a little bit more towards the focus on the design and the architectures of building out those data platforms that data engineers and analysts and science all code off and build. So I start to think about things really more as an ecosystem as a whole. And what I think is really cool, and Sonny mentioned this a little bit as well, is we're seeing a lot more non-management technical career growth tracks and paths. 10 years ago, it was you were a developer and then you became a manager. Now we have these junior and senior and staff level and principal level that really give you different tracks and different ways to go that doesn't just get you into people management. So how I got here, so my journey was a bit more non-traditional. I think Sonny had the most traditional background of us of going to school than applying for jobs. Jen was a little bit more non-traditional, like me with some of that teaching background. I'd be curious. I think we need a Dustin or Brandy survey to really see what the non-traditional or what the backgrounds are of professionals in our world. I actually think from conversations that I've had that it's probably more like a third to a half are non-traditional, which is why I think events like this are really cool to understand how you can get into this without just going to school for a 4-year degree. And so so same for me, I certainly started off, I took a couple coding classes in college and dropped out of coding. I didn't think I wanted to sit and code in my laptop all day. So what a 180 that became. But I got into the data world. I was working at a financial place, and we were in a statement team, our client reporting team. We were in charge of managing the statement processes and making sure all the exceptions were correct. Literally, we'd have to go down to the print room and we'd get an exception report. Like, I kid you not, the stack was about this long. And I remember on month end, we'd be up until we'd be at work at our desk. We'd hand out these exception reports, and it'd be about 5 of us that are all figuring out all the exceptions and going into the system and all this. And so we'd literally be at the office till like 1 a.m. And so that's really what kickstarted my data career. As after that, we're like we're young people, and we don't want to sit here till 1 a.m. So we learned SQL, we learned some VBA. Macros automation, and we just started automating everything that we could. I always viewed this, the BI at the time was the shiny thing. I always viewed it as like the analysis and building dashboards. I always thought that was really cool. I always thought that I wanted to get into that world, but I just kept being pulled back into automating more things behind the scenes. And so really just at some point, it just kind of stuck, became a passion for me. And I've really enjoyed the automation part of it. I guess you could say I just really never made it to that BI journey as part of my own journey. But I think what the takeaway there is for everyone watching here, that there is no traditional background to get into here. It's really all about how you can take your own experiences and apply it to your next role or your next experience. Anybody that knows me knows that I love talking about culture. I think an event like this, I'd be remiss if I didn't get a little culture talk into here. As it relates to this data world that we're in, the data ecosystem it's so large. It's impossible to know everything, to know every technical thing. The business knowledge of these organizations, the business knowledge that Jen and Sunny has to know for the analysis and that feature development is just so large that they can't do it themselves, and I can't do it myself on all the technical stuff. I'm behind the scenes. So collaboration is not only critical, it's really the only way to succeed. But still, especially as we're getting started, so a lot of you coming in as trying to figure out how to get started, we build these walls for ourselves, and we think, I'm an engineer, I'm supposed to know this, I'm supposed to know how to figure out them, and we're afraid to ask, we're afraid to look stupid to the next person. And this is where culture really comes in, because the best way to break down those walls, to not be afraid to ask for help on something, is to build relationships with people. Now, you don't have to be best friends and go out drinking after work with them, but I guarantee you that learning a little bit about the person that you're working with will help build that strong relationship with them and help be able to make you ask them a question and make you more approachable for them to ask you a question. I actually think one of the best qualities of senior level developers, engineers, research analysts, data scientists, whatever it is, it's the ones that are most approachable to others. You talked about it. You heard Jen talking a lot about her passion for teaching. It's that culture, it's that ability to help others in the career. So think about that as you get started, as you get in your role, or as you're in those junior roles, of how you can take the next step within them. All right, so we're at a career summit. I'm supposed to be talking you into this career, so I'm actually going to take the opposite approach. I want to talk people out of this career to start here. So I think data in general is a pretty big buzz right now. There's a high demand for people in our field. There's a low supply. Obviously, it drives up the compensation that we get for it. These are good jobs. But if you're here just for that reason, this is not the place for you. I'll tell you a little bit why. So really, in our world, there's always a growing list of things to do. You're always going to feel like you're behind, that you can't learn enough, that you can't know enough. The learning doesn't stop. I talked to my sister-in-law a lot about this. She's a nurse practitioner. The things that she was doing 10, 12 years ago are still pretty similar to what she's doing now, maybe 80, 90%. There's new things that come into there. The things that I was consulting on 3 to 4 years ago, even in some similar technologies, are completely different than what I'm doing now. And so there's a constant learning that happens to this job. The best engineers and analysts that we have, they do not treat this as just a 9 to 5 go home. They're investing a lot of time in their craft. They're doing side projects, classes, certs. They're staying up to date on their craft. And so there's this never-ending set. For Jen talked about the passion to get into here. If you're passionate, if you can't put our project down to eat dinner, this is absolutely the right career for you. If you are only in it for the 9 to 5 job, this is not a 9 to 5 job. So with that, I've successfully, hopefully, talked some people out of it. Whoever's left is here for the right reasons. Fantastic. That's my 2-minute spiel. What I do love about it, what I truly love about this career, first of all, this is the opportunity. Every company is a tech company. We've heard that before. And really every company, I saw this on LinkedIn the other day, every company is really becoming a data company. Maybe not there yet, but every company is becoming a data company. So the skill set that we have are truly needed by the industry as a whole. that opportunity brings freedom. I think there's a certain amount of freedom that comes with knowing that your skill set are valuable in the market as a whole. And then ultimately, my job is solving a million small puzzles. I love puzzles. I love tinkering. So it's just a ton of fun being able to solve all of those individual puzzles that come away from it. So advice from newcomers. We heard this from some of the others. So first, I think even if you're interested in the data science, the data analyst side, learning more about the data engineering field, learning about some of those things we talked about in the beginning of some of those data pipelines, the data modeling, those things will only help you in your careers as data scientists, data analysts. Sunny, you talked about scale. That was one of the things that she talked about. And so learning how to scale out your models and learning some of the data engineering, frankly, the best data analysts, the best data scientists that I've known also can dabble and hold their own in the data engineering. So I think no matter what field you're getting into, learning a little bit about data engineering is really key and really critical. So, and then especially early on in your career, I think too many people early on, they look at, all right, I can jump ship and get an extra X number of dollars. Don't focus on the money. Focus on the learning, the opportunity, the mentorship. Who are you looking to build? Find opportunities that really focus on that learning, and then build projects. I know Avery Smith is in here. He always talks about this on LinkedIn. The best way to learn what we do is to build. There's only so much you can learn on LinkedIn, on YouTube, reading Medium posts. You got to get in there and build. And so if you're learning this, whether it's data analyst track or data science track or data engineering, you got to get in there and start building something. And lastly, you gotta have some fun. So we spend a lot of time working. The best people that I've worked with, the best people that are culture fits and technical fits, they bring that positivity. They have fun. So that is my spiel. Hopefully we had some fun along the way, and I picked up from Dustin's downer. So.
You did great. Always, you always bring that energy. So thank you so much, and for such a unique perspective too. I think, particularly, maybe why you shouldn't pursue the role, or maybe pursuing it for the wrong reasons. So I think that's wonderful.
You're on mute.
I'm muted. Yep. I always joke. It's not a it's not a party and a live event until someone's on mute. I hit it at the 1.5 hour mark. So I was also the first person to hit it in the last event too. So, we'll have to continue the tradition from here on out. But we did have a couple questions. Actually, I thought this was kind of fun. So questions around what you found to be the most difficult part in your journey to becoming a data engineer. There was more than one question on that. What was the hardest part, Justin?
Man, I think getting started. I had this idea when I was first getting started in this world that I needed a degree. I needed to know all this stuff that I had to know SQL and Python and all these different database languages. And so I think it was my own mental block. And the reality is that you need to know some SQL, you need to know some Python. But more importantly, you need to show what you can do, and so that's where I think the learning, the side projects that you're doing are so important, because if you get into an interview, you don't need to have all the data sets. This is where getting into the right company, the right fit, and learning on the job is so critical. But you need to be able to show and showcase what you can do or what you are going to be able to do, and so bringing projects. Frankly, the best interviews, I've done a lot of interviewing over the last 4 or 5 years. The best interviews that I've had are the ones that people come on and say, instead of just telling me what they do, they say, hey, can I show you this real quick? And they open up their GitHub, their code, they open up a Streamlit thing or whatever it is, and they actually show off some code. That's absolutely the best way to get in. But I think there's this mental block, at least for me, of getting started in that.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin.